From Malaysia. My question to you is, what is your view on the democracy in Malaysia with the recent jailing of Anwar Ibrahim, the opposition leader, and the crackdown on the opposition? Thank you.
Well, Malaysia has a history of democracy that has to be preserved. And I have a very good relationship with Prime Minister Najib, and we are close partners in cooperating on a whole host of issues. I think that Malaysia, like all our countries, not just ASEAN countries, but countries here in the United States, have to recognize that democracy is not just elections, but it's how open and transparent and accountable government is between elections. And it's important that free speech, freedom of the press, an independent judiciary, the right to assemble peacefully, that all those rights are observed to make democracy work. So as a general rule, I don't comment on even individual cases in this country, much less another country, because I think it's important for the legal system to work. But I do know that it is important, if an opposition leader who's well known has been charged with a crime, that that process of how that is adjudicated and how open it is and how clear the evidence is, that is all subject to scrutiny. Because what you don't want is a situation in which the legitimacy of the process is questioned. That has an adverse impact on democracy as a whole. And I think we all have to guard against making sure that there's not a chilling effect on potential opposition in government. So, as I always point out, democracy is hard. I mean, I think that many of the things that are said about me are terribly unfair. But the reason American democracy has survived for so long is because people, even if they're wrong, have a right to say what they think. George Washington, our first president, he complained terribly about some of the foolishness that was said about him. But part of the reason he's considered one of our greatest presidents is because he set an example of recognizing that if democracy was to work, then you had to respect the rights of even those people who you disagreed most with. Because otherwise, there's no way that a democracy can flourish over the long term. So these are things that I've said publicly when I was in Myanmar, when I was in Malaysia, rather. I had an opportunity to meet with some community activists and civil society leaders there. And this is something that I say everywhere we go. And it's important for America to recognize that we're not perfect either. And so we have to make sure that we are constantly seeing how do we improve our democracy. I mean, the amounts of money, for example, that are involved in our elections these days is disturbing, because it makes it seem as if a few people have more influence in the democracy than the many. And so I will continue to speak out about these issues, even with friends. Maybe sometimes we are even more willing to say something when it's friends, because we know that they can do better.